and have voted in every election here since 1989. While Junior and Patty have been doing service in the town, I've been building Belize. I've built all over the country, from Corozal to Ladyville, Lighthouse Reef, Caye Caulker, St. George's, and all over San Pedro. And have amassed a tremendous amount of experience in what it takes to actually make a successful development, which is what San Pedro is. As far as my political experience is concerned, I was elected under the UDP administration to the Board of Directors of the Commercial Free Zone in Corozal, where we approved all of the companies and free zones and managed all of the free zones nationwide. I was re-elected to that Board of Directors under a PUP government and served until such time as the act was amended and the government kind of took over the free zone, right? But during that time, we were instrumental in forming hundreds of companies, and we created hundreds and hundreds of jobs. It was a very, very successful project. I am also known for the Covington building system here, and have personally trained hundreds of people in their trade. And I believe that this set of skills is what's really needed here. I see a lot of development problems that we have where there's been good intentions, but not necessarily enough practical experience and knowledge to actually solve these things. And I believe that that's seriously what I bring to the table, along with a tremendous organizational capacity. I've managed as many as 200 workers at a time on a multitude of job sites, and so I'm quite accustomed to a heavy workload, and I kind of like it. And we do have a big job in front of us here. We've got a lot of catching up to do, as well as planning for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mike Campbell, independent candidate for Belize Rural South. At this time, I'll give the opportunity for the standard bearer of the VIP, Mr. Bobby Lopez.
Thank you, Aidan, and a pleasant good evening, ladies and gentlemen, radio and TV listeners in Belize Rural South, San Pedro, and Caye Caulker. In 1981, a tiny country decided to go on to independence, and at that time, it was being governed by a two-party system. As a Commonwealth nation, we had the blessing of the Queen and other Commonwealth countries, with exception of one country that claimed our territory and refused to recognize us. But with the blessing of the United Nations and the Organization of American States, we proceeded. There's another country with the same standard of living in the 1970s that decided they weren't ready for independence. They would remain a British protectorate. And today, that country has a per capita income of $47,000, and Belize has a per capita of $6,000. Now, something went wrong along the road. 32 years of independence, and today we see the highest crime rate we've ever seen, and we're now ranked in the most murderous country in the world. We see unemployment never before at 25%. We see the highest cost of living. We see the highest cost of fuel in a country that now produces oil and sells it, exports it for $3 a gallon, yet we have to pay over $11 for the same product to use it ourselves. In 1998, my dad stood up on a third-party ticket to run for the constituency of Belize of Caye South. I thought he was crazy. I thought something must be wrong. He only got 14 votes, basically his family and his friends. But he was showing me that when you believe in something and you know that something is wrong, you must stand up for what you believe in. No matter what ridicule, no matter what people say, stand up for what you believe. And that's what my dad taught me. It took me a while to understand. In 2000, when Belmopan became a city for the first time and we could elect, I was out of the country, but I watched my two comrades, Paul and Hubert, stood up on an independent ticket. And I said, the next time I'm going to join them. And in 2003, I stood up with my comrades, and 4 of us ran on an independent ticket known as the Belmopan Be Safe, Belmopan Social Action for Fairness and Equality, because those were the issues that we saw were lacking in the system of government, especially at the local level. We ran in 2006 when we formed and evolved into a political movement. Vision inspired by the people says nothing about party, it's a political movement. And in 2009, after being laughed at and scorned and called a different shade of 2 different colors and called spoilers, we garnered more votes than the party that created the capital city. And then people realized that change can occur. That if one perseveres and one believes in what he believes in, and he knows that it's doing it for the right reasons, change can come. And the VIP has continued to evolve and to grow as people call us from the north to the south and the east to the west, calling for more and better representation. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have misunderstood the meaning of representation. There are 5 components to representation. First, you have to have, who are you representing? The constituents. What are you representing? You're representing a constituency. Where are you representing it? Well, there are 3 areas that you represent. You represent first at the local area, when you identify the issues and you try to find the solutions within the constituency. You represent at the national level. When it's not available at the local, then you go to the national and you see if you can solve that problem and issues at the National Assembly or anywhere in the country, and then you go to the international level where you seek help outside. It is time to bring good and fair and equitable representation to Belize Rural South. Innovative leadership has been absent, and this is what I bring to this table. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bobby Lopez, Standard Bearer of the VIP. At this moment, I will be inviting Ms. Mary Gonzalez to join me as she will be presenting the first question. The first to answer will be the Standard Bearer of the United Democratic Party. The topic is education, and at this moment, Tamara is handing over the question on education to all 4 candidates.
Many elementary schools are overcrowded and most communities are without adequate high schools. Do you have any plans for improving educational opportunities in Belize Rural South for all age groups? If so, what are they?
Okay.
Many elementary schools are overcrowded and most communities are without adequate high schools. Do you have any plans for improving educational opportunities in Belize Rural South for all age groups? If so, what are they?
Well, first of all, let me say that San Pedro has been a fast-growing community, and the migration from the O district have really put a pressure in schools, and indeed they are overcrowded. We have tried to add classrooms to several schools, but it is time that we have a government school. And that, my friends, as soon as we are back in office, the Minister of Education have promised that once we get the land, because land is very scarce over here, we know what happened to all of our land over here, we will get that land and build an elementary government school over here. I do believe in education very, very strong. If many of the parents over here know that from the time we were elected, we have been giving grants to almost all the poorest students in the Belize Rural South and all the country of Belize. In particularly in San Pedro, I realized that there are at least 15 students studying abroad, every single one of them with a grant from this area representative. And many of the sixth formers, university students, high school students, up to preschool, many of them are being assisted. It means to say that we have to put emphasis in education, and indeed, we have to continue to grow the number of schools so that we can foster a populace that is highly educated. A populace that is highly educated will see the result of less crime and will see a nation and a country going in the better direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Heredia. We'll give the opportunity to Mr. Mike Campbell.
Testing, yes. Thank you very much. The schools are a particular pet issue of mine. I've been involved in the formation of the Island Academy here, and I've also operated an internet high school, trying to take up some of the slack for my son and some others. We have reached the point where we have about 2,000 kids in primary school, and the high school of about 700 is completely full. And as we all know, we have probably 20% of the kids walking around on the streets not going to school at all. We need a lot more, with all due respect, than another school. We need a primary school and we need a new high school as well. Our high school is inadequate. We need a school that will have vocational education as well as technical education, and we can get some of these kids off the street and plan for our future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Campbell. We'll give the opportunity to Mr. Bobby Lopez.
I have served on every PTA of my children's education, and I mean every single one. As I travel and I visit the schools in this area, I must confess that these schools need a lot of help. I admire what they're doing with the limited resources they have, but I'm tired of excuses. Since the 1960s, Barbados has been giving its people free education to university level at UWI level. It is unacceptable, and I am out to prove this administration and any other administration wrong, that we can give our people free education to university level. And that starts with starting to attract universities to this island. Now, with the limited resources we have, we need to go to the shift system. But before we go to the shift system, we need to make sure that our children are safe when they're walking home from school at night. It's the only way to go. We must go to the shift system with limited resources and buildings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bobby Lopez. We'll give the opportunity now to Ms. Patricia Arceo.
Thank you, Aiden. The situation with the classrooms both in San Pedro and Caye Caulker is one that needs to be addressed immediately. They are overcrowded, whether it's from the primary school, preschool, and high school. Both San Pedro and Caye Caulker need 2 new primary schools. San Pedro needs a new high school. The high school in Caye Caulker needs new classrooms. So we need to address this thing, because the ratio that we have right now per students, of students and teachers, is about 35 students per teacher. And if you go into those classrooms only have a couple of hands. So we need to address this situation. Assistance, we need to give computers with free internet to all the schools. We also need to be assisting all the schools with their utility bills, and also we need to establish a professional studies scholarship for the students of San Pedro and Caye Caulker, and we must inculcate in all the schools tourism education starting from preschool.
Thank you very much, Ms. Patty. The rebuttal is optional. If the candidate decides to do that, then we'll give them the opportunity, and it will go in the same order. We begin with the Honorable.
Well, I must say that, first of all, you have to work with the resources that you have. There are some candidates that might say, I want to build this, they want to build the impossible. But being in government, once you are there, you will know what and with what will you have to work. Because myself in Caye Caulker, for instance, I was the one that lobbied and helped the people that were behind that to have the high school in Caye Caulker. And I have been helping financially also with what I can afford. If we had a mountain of dollars over there, we can do everything that we want. I would love to do everything that I pass in my mind for both Caye Caulker and San Pedro. But if the resources are not there, then you have to work within the resources.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manuel Heredia. Mr. Mike Campbell.
Thank you. Honorable Junior has hit the nail right on the head. It's a matter of financing on all of these things. And we do not get our share of the financing. There's no way that the government is going to write the town council a huge check. Until such time as we become our separate district and can demand our fair share of all of these ministries, we'll not get the money. When we do reach that point where we are a district, they will no longer be able to ignore us, and they will have no choice but to give us what we are entitled to. I'm tired of begging and hearing excuses when we produce maybe $3 billion in the last 20 years into the country, and I don't want to hear that there's no money for schools.
Thank you, Mr. Mike Campbell. Mr. Bobby Lopez.
I want to say that I don't agree with the grant system, because the grant system fosters more a culture of dependency, and then people get used to that handout. I am saying that with the infrastructure that we have right now in place, we can go into the shift system that every single one of our neighbors practice. You go into Chetumal, Guatemala, Honduras, the kids are going to school at 6 o'clock in the morning, they come out at midday, the next shift comes in at 1, they come out at 6, they'll get the same amount of hours of schooling, and you can do that immediately. You don't have to wait to build buildings and more classrooms. In September, we can go to the shift system and reduce the classroom population to half. So that is what we need to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby Lopez. Ms. Patricia Arceo.
Aiden, look, there are so many things that need to be done into the education system. And yes, I do agree with the resources, as Mr. Heredia was saying. However, San Pedro and Caye Caulker contribute a vast amount of money to the national government. Let us bring a proportional return of taxes back into the island. And that can be gotten from the GST and also the BTB and income tax. We don't need all the money. We just need a percentage to come back to the island, because yes, every year more people are coming to our island and they're bringing their children, and these children, they need adequate places to go, because these are our children and they need their education.
Thank you very much, Ms. Patty Arceo. At this moment, we'll invite Mary for question number 2, and the topic is on campaigning. Mr. Mike Campbell will be the first to respond to this question. Ms. Tamara is issuing the questions as we speak.
Every election season, politicians promise land, citizenship, cash, and other favors to their constituents in exchange for votes. What are your thoughts on this practice, and have you, as a candidate, ever made such promises? I'll repeat. Every election season, politicians promise land, citizenship, cash, and other favors to their constituents in exchange for votes. What are your thoughts on this practice, and have you, as a candidate, ever made such promises?
Thank you very much. This is an extremely sensitive issue. Promising anything in exchange for a vote is a form of corruption. Patronage is what we're talking about. Politicians act like they're giving you a favor, but in reality, you're entitled to what it is that they're giving you, right? And so all of these promises of land and citizenship and these sorts of things are things that you're actually entitled to. And politicians use this as a way of getting out of performance, okay? They do a whole lot of favors and they think that that's going to get them by, but they haven't actually done anything for the community. And it's because they're so busy trying to to please individual people by giving favors and this and that. The Rural South office should definitely have a department that deals with all of these things. So you can go in there and have land service on your land or citizenship or your business without even talking to the representative. Maybe you don't like him, right? But you're still entitled to the very same services, and you shouldn't feel afraid to go in there. And so this should just be part of the business function of the office. And the area rep should actually be doing things more like planning for the future and solving problems rather than troubling himself with individual pieces of paperwork, which is only a clerical function in reality. But we must get out of the habit of asking for favors because it puts a tremendous pressure on the politician. He wants to help everyone. As soon as you help one, the next one wants more. At the end of the day, there's more people that you haven't been able to give favors to than you have as our population grows. And so it's just a habit that we have to get out.